This is why you need decentralization. People don't care about it until it actually affects them. It's not just a buzzword, it's actual censorship resistance. So when you think about perps, there's two things you need for perps. You need USDC, you need an Oracle. But USDC is huge. You don't want it to be wrapped, you don't want to involve like a bunch of other headaches. But with Monad, we have USDC on day one. In one click, you can come to Monad and you can start trading on it. For us as builders, like I'm just so excited to see like what's going to happen on Monad. Perps on Monad, it's very obvious, but there's just so many non-obvious things that are going to happen. I remember talking to Keone and I was like, how the hell do we do like a 1 second blockchain? 1 second's fast, but now when you guys announce 500 milliseconds, like, yes, thank you. Like this makes life so much better. If you're a little bit more proficient and you want to like work in crypto, I think the best way to do it is actually by
Welcome back to the Pipeline Podcast. It is episode 40. We have a very special episode today. Indeed, they're all special, but recently we've taken a little bit of a hiatus from the Pipeline Podcast as we've experimented with a lot of other different content formats, but appreciate our guests, appreciate everyone who is tuning in here today. We have an awesome guest to talk through an exciting product that is built natively on Monad and some really awesome announcements as well. Of course, we have intern in the trusty co-host seat.
GM.
We are thrilled to welcome the co-founder of Perpl, PBJ. How is it going today? Thank you for joining us.
Doing great, guys. Glad to see the markets also ripping and fully green. Happy to be here.
Lots to dive into, but most notably, very, very big announcement just hit the timeline. Perpl closing out a fundraise. PB, can you tell us a little bit about that? Super exciting. Congratulations to yourself and the team.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, really excited to announce that we've closed our funding round led by Dragonfly and Argonia. Had a bunch of great other funds involved, like Brevin Howard, L1 Digital, Hashkey. And then the most important part of this, I think, is the angels that were involved. We had some really great angels from well-known trading firms like HRT, Jump, Arbellos, Galois. And then, of course, the amazing set of founder angels like Keone, James, Eugene, Jari. Really excited that we got this funding closed, got about 9.25 million closed there. And looking forward to launching our product on mainnet soon.
Oh, yeah. Well, previously in my past life at CMS, was doing a lot of venture investing. Now I've been on the other side of the table with Monad's raise, and then, any teams that are building in the Monad ecosystem, usually I will talk with as well if they're going through the fundraise process. It looks cool when you put out the tweet and there's like good number, good partners, but the background, it's a lot of work to get to the point where you're even ready for that. And then actually going through the process is also, a lot of work, a lot of conversations, figuring out like what should we actually do at this point. I know on your side, like people have been excited about Perpl for a very long time. The fundraise is kind of just like one step in the direction. Right now, there will be more resources to actually go and build out the product more quickly. Maybe hire on a few interns that can help with the community side of things. But yeah, I guess one question, like, how was that process for you? And then the second would be like, what are some of the next steps you see this fundraise unlocking? And like, what are some of the things you're excited to do now with more resources for the team?
Yeah, the fundraise part was probably the easiest to get the investors excited. Perpetual exchange on Monad is a pretty obvious and exciting idea. So that part was pretty straightforward. But just closing the raise, getting all the T's crossed and I's dotted, just took us a little bit of time. With the funding, we've already hired out our team, so we're all based in London. Our entire engineering team is here. So we're hyper local, we're not distributed. We think like building startups is really hard. Doing it distributed is like extremely hard. And what we're trying to do is very ambitious. So in order to do that, you need to have like the right resources and to be able to grab a room, whiteboard ideas, and dissect them, rebuild them. So our team is about 10 people right now, and we're really happy with that. So not really looking to like grow the team extremely. It's just delivering on the product and the promise and the excitement that people have been looking forward to using perp sticks on one end.
So I think at this point, a lot of listeners are probably familiar, at least very high level, with Perpl. But you mentioned the product is really ambitious. I'm curious to hear, what makes it so ambitious? Really, what is the core product of Perpl, and what really makes it stand out and differentiates it?
Yeah, purple, I think even the name's pretty significant. So purple is perps on Perpl chain. It was like a very obvious and fun name that we came up with.
Great
The
name.
idea came around, interestingly, it was pitched to us. So AC, my co-founder, and I, we were building AMMs on Ethereum, not really getting the greatest traction, but Monad was, picking up steam. The paradigm round was announced. There was just a lot of excitement around it. And we were approached by a trading team called Ergonia. They said, hey guys, come build a perp stacks on Monad. We think it's going to be huge. It's a really fast chain. We can actually market make on this thing. AC and I, we're both engineers by trade. We're not finance guys. So we know how to do like really low level EVM programming. The other really interesting combination here was Ergonia has pretty much traded on every perpdex and central exchange out there. So they had all this key insights about what works and what doesn't work. And they were very confident that doing this on Monad made a ton of sense. So, we have pretty much like the finance background side covered with our advisors that I mentioned in our investment round, and also Ergonia, one of our market makers. And then AC and I have built out this engineering team where we're able to just execute on this. And I would say the biggest takeaway here is it is an extremely ambitious project because nobody has ever done a fully on-chain CLOB perpdex on EVM. If you, I kind of talked about this earlier about this idea maze of perpdexes. They usually just end up being AMMs historically, just because you couldn't do CLOBs and you couldn't market make properly on chain. The only ones that are CLOB based are app chains. So this is the DYDXs and the Hyperliquids. Again, they're not on EVM. Both of them are Cosmos based chains. So doing this on EVM on a generalized L1 is really hard because there's just a ton of problems, and I'm sure we'll go into that. So it's a very interesting engineering problem at the same time, and really excited to showcase that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, here at Monad Foundation, we are no strangers to aptitude to solve hard problems and go in and create something that's net new. And it is really awesome to see Monad's performance being harnessed for a net new, unique product that has a great purpose, right? Like enabling sex-like trading on a decentralized order book is really, really exciting. And to your point, it hasn't been done yet previously. I'm curious, who do you see as the primary new users that a product like Perpl is going to activate or bring into crypto or make on-chain trading possible for?
So one of the reasons why we chose Monad beyond just the tech stack was just the unbelievable community that you guys were building. A lot of people have built really fast perpdexes on L2s where they're really siloed, but you really need that core community to be excited about using your product and getting the initial set of users. Perps are inherently pretty complicated. They're not necessarily like the most retail friendly product. So in version one, we want to pretty much have like the table stakes, like interface where retail and whales are able to interact with it, where there's not something like completely brand new. And the other thing that we're trying to do is take a more modular approach to it. So Kraken, if you look at their interface, it's interesting. They've done some great work there where they have a completely different UX for one-click trading. They have a completely different UX for the more retail-based trader, where there's not like this flashing order book happening and a bunch of charts and numbers moving around. And then they have a UX for the more professional user that wants pretty much like all their data. So that's the kind of like end goal we want to get to with our UX, because you really can't fit it for these pretty opposite personas, where it's the retail and the professionals have like completely different use cases. So ideally, what we want to have is one UX that's tailor made for things that you are already familiar with, the Hyperliquid, the Binance type UX, and then also have more like the one-click trading, simpler UX. And then what we really would like to see happen is more people building innovative UXs on top of it. So that's one of the reasons why you build on a generalized L1 is you build this amazing core smart contracts, like similar like what Uniswap had done on Ethereum. And then you get a lot of user interest and developer interest, and they come in and build like Telegram bots, LLM interfaces, just these other interesting ways of interacting with perps, where you're not just overwhelmed with data and numbers and like all kinds of information that is pretty scary for a retail user.
So I think of perps as like one of the best innovations to come out of the crypto space overall, right? Like it is truly a new financial primitive. It has gained a ton of traction over the years. DYDX for a long time was like a massive player on the derivative side. We've seen Hyperliquid come up over the last year and gain a lot of interest. And it seems like one of the key areas where there just is product market fit in crypto. Like if there's anything that people like in crypto, it's trading and speculation, leverage, and perps dexes are the best way to basically express that want and need. From your point of view, like I remember when we're going through the monad side, it was like, why another L1, right? I can imagine on the perps dex side, it's like, well, why a perps dex, right? There's already these other things that exist. And I think a good question or something to hear your view on is like, why build a perps dex in the first place, right? I could see haters be like, oh, well, there's already Hyperliquid, or like this is already exists. What are some of the differentiators or things that you guys look to bring to market that like truly sets Perpl apart from the rest of the market?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I think the perp dex market is really nascent. I think there's been a lot of iterations on it and a lot of like ecosystems where it's been tried. As I mentioned, it was tried on Ethereum, 12-second block times, doesn't work. It's been tried on L2s. You're an isolated island. People don't want to go there. It's been tried on Solana, where the biggest issue was just market makers weren't able to market make consistently. And that's why AMMs kind of became the de facto solution for that. And then it's been tried on app chains with DYDX and Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid has taken a lot of interesting trade-offs with like, controlling their own chain, being the biggest market maker on there. So we think that the trade-offs that we're making are completely different. What we're leaning into is the fact that we're building on a generalized L1 that has a strong ecosystem, and we really want to like leverage the composability angle. And what I mean by composability is kind of the stuff that Monad has been putting out, USDC support. So when you think about perps, there's two things you need for perps. You need USDC, you need an Oracle. Oracle, we can pretty much substitute, but it's great that Chainlink and PET are going to be supported. But USDC is huge. The only reason Hyperliquid is even attached to Arbitrum is because they needed USDC to flow into their system. You don't want it to be wrapped. You don't want to involve like a bunch of other headaches. But with Monad, we have USDC on day one. So if you have USDC on Arbitrum, ETH, Solana, wherever, in one click, you can come to Monad and you can start trading on it, right? So that's a huge benefit that we have. And then composability even goes into protocols, right? So you'll have a whole bunch of people when Monad launches that have Mon tokens, probably bridge over Bitcoin, Ethereum. What they can do is then take that tokens and park in an Euler or Aave or whatever, borrow USDC against it, come trade perps with it. So there's just a ton of like benefits to being a generalized L1. And then there's also like cons to it, right? So I'll give you a couple of cons. So one of the things that Hyperliquid can do is they can basically have custom opcodes. So they can say, cool, every hour we'll collect funding from the shorts to the longs or vice versa based on which way the funding is going. So they don't have to pay gas for that. They can also course control gas. They can basically make it so that you don't have to even think about gas when you're trading on there. The other benefit that they have with Hyperliquid is the opcode. Oh yeah, they can prioritize certain orders, right? So when you're market making on chain, not only do you have to pay gas, which is kind of annoying, you also cannot prioritize certain orders. So with market makers, they want to prioritize cancels, for example, because let's just say with the Trump coin, which is a great example of it, right? Suddenly Trump announces a dinner, the price goes up like, I don't know how much, over $5. If the market maker doesn't react to it or cancel their orders, they just completely get run over, right? On Hyperliquid, what they can do is like, if they see that news come out, they can send out a cancel order, and that cancel order always goes to the top of the block, right? Before anybody else's orders gets executed, the cancel order gets executed. So that really makes it like friendly to market makers, and we can't expect that to happen on Monad. So we have to make different trade-offs. So what we do is in our system, we have this thing called a time enforced order. So when a market maker comes in and they put in an order, they'll say, cool, this order is only active for the next 2 to 3 blocks. That way they don't even have to send a cancel order in the future. It just automatically expires. Now that also adds a ton of other complexities that I can go into, but it's just those types of trade-offs that you have to make where when you don't control the chain, you have to like make these certain trade-offs. But then the benefit is when you do have a generalized L1, you have the composability, you have the ecosystem, and even Fireblocks. I can go about that where that's going to help us with our vaults. One of the things that Hyperliquid has done is the reason why they bootstrapped the way they bootstrapped it is HLP. HLP is basically this market maker that sits on the other side of every single trade, right? It's great that they have market making experience and whatnot, but it's also, I don't know, it's a gray area basically. And that's a gray area that we don't want to cross. But we also think that vaults are extremely powerful. One of the ways you're going to win on perps is you have to list faster and you have to have like deep liquidity. It's great to have market makers, but they're also very risk averse and they're not going to like help you list tokens if they don't have access to spots. So with Fireblocks, we have like a solution where market makers will be able to hedge their risk for certain tokens with vaults on Monad and liquidity on Monad, and passive LPs can still earn a yield on that.
Beautiful. This is kind of an explain it to me like I'm 5 moment, but when you're talking about cons and trade-offs and some of the challenges that come up when you don't have end-to-end control over a system, it makes me think about the broader crypto community's reaction to decentralization as a whole, where you get this sentiment generally that's like, oh, I don't care that much about decentralization. I just want the best user experience and the best product. But then inevitably something happens, and then all of a sudden everyone's out there tweeting, not your keys, not your coins, and suddenly caring about decentralization. And I'm curious how you and the team think about decentralization, because you could have gone the route of building something with more end-to-end control. And from my understanding, that might have been an easier path. But you're, in my opinion and perspective, taking the harder path here. So would love to hear what's gone into that decision.
For sure. I think one of my favorite websites in the recent times, especially post testnet, is Monads. I love that website. Anytime anybody says about like, here's my L1, I'm like, all right, cool. Let's look at your L1's validators and let's look at Monad's validators. So with decentralization, right? People don't care about it until it actually affects them. And this was a issue that we weren't focused too much about, but you just kind of like, if you spend enough time on Twitter, you're like, why would you even build your own? Why would you build this on a generalized L1 when you can just do what Hyperliquid's doing, right? Which is have your own chain, have your own market maker, just control, have your own exchange. But then the Jelly Jelly attack was just like the perfect, kind of like point where we could be like, look, this is why you need decentralization. It's not just a buzzword, it's actual censorship resistance, right? Let's just say for some reason we do something bad with our perp decks, i.e., like we don't think about an economic attack vector. I can't just phone up a validator. I'm like, hey man, can you just like change that Oracle price for me? It just doesn't work that way, right? And the whole ethos of crypto is trust, don't trust, verify. You can't verify anything in a closed system. And it's just one of those ticking time bombs. I think like Tavano, one of those DeFi researchers, has done a great job of like exposing some of the like holes in the system where it's closed, you can't really see what's going on. And we clearly saw them just basically completely just rewrite history with the Jelly Jelly attack. I'm sure there's like arguments for like central exchanges for colluding to go after them, but at the end of the day, they are supposed to be managing their risk, and they didn't. And they said, you know what, we can just kind of rewrite this thing. So, as a trader, would I trust a system where if it's like heads I lose, tails you win? Like it's just it doesn't work. But some people are okay with that trade off. If and more power to them. But I think one of the things to be really aware of is we're just talking about a very small current market right now, right? We're just talking about crypto, Twitter, retail users, people that are already on perps. Imagine a future where there's enough trading on perps and institutions want to get on board. Imagine explaining to an institution that, hey, let's go on this chain where they can arbitrarily change things in case like we trade against them and they lose. But we should park like billions of dollars and like hedge our exposure. It just doesn't pass a smell test. Like this is one of the reasons why Ethereum gets like adoption because it's decentralized. You can't really do things like that on this chain. And even Solana, right? Like they've had their growing pains, but you start to see like institutions actually take notice of that and actually start using it. I think the trade-offs that Hyperliquid has made are just one of those like short-term gains type of things. And if you're trying to build something for the next 5 to 10 years, it's just really hard to do that in such a centralized way when you've clearly shown that you can also change the rules of the game when it goes against you.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of a challenge, I think, for any builder in this space or any like user or crypto enthusiast to maintain that long-term mindset and to really zoom out and remember what we're here for. But I can say personally, one of the most exciting and inspiring things about being a non-technical contributor at the Monad Foundation is this dedication both on the protocol side from Category Labs as well as on the ecosystem side with awesome teams like yours, like really building into this ethos, building for the long term and trying to create a product that is meaningful in terms of pushing the space forward. So definitely applaud you for that. It makes my job a lot easier and a lot more fun as well. But I can imagine that it certainly comes with challenges as you've started to describe.
Yeah, one question that I have as well, right? Like people in the community and broader crypto audience overall are going to see the fundraise announcement and go, "Nice, I've heard of Monad. I'm excited about it. Now I have Perpl to look forward to. Like, when can I actually do something, right? Like, when can I actually try out this product? Can I join a Discord? Is there anything to do on the social layer now?" Well, yeah, I think like what are you guys looking forward to over the next, call it 6 months, maybe product rollout or just general broader strategy? Yeah, what can the people listening to this right now, how can they engage with Perpl or what can they look forward to over the next, half year?
Yeah, we have a very active Discord. Our community lead, G-Van, has been killing it. I'm sure there's like a ton of events and stuff that they can participate. He has like an event literally every day, from like trading wars where they try out different perp dexes. poker nights, therapy, etc. He's just amazing at that. What we can look forward to in the next 6 months, I think if there's any team in crypto that understands building hard things and taking time and how difficult it is, it's the Monad team. So for us, we want to get this thing on testnet pretty soon, and then mainnet soon after. A good thing is like we can pretty much say, hey, mainnet and monad's mainnet. So that's an advantage that we're like fully leaning into. But trust me, like we are working as hard as we possibly can to get this thing to fruition. So things are going forward. Things are, headed in the right direction. But ideally, in the next 6 months, we're on mainnet. We're iterating. We're adding new features. So like cross margin and cross collateral, all those things are coming. It just takes time. When you try to do everything on chain, you have to. It's pretty much like you're always thinking that North Korea is going to be attacking you, right? There's no hiding behind obfuscation. There's no hiding behind like controlled validator sets. Once you put that smart contract out there, it's like you're putting your little baby out to the wolves, and you got to make sure it has all the superpowers it needs and all the protections it can have to like survive.
100%. I mean, it's, as you mentioned, an incredibly exciting time, but it's also in crypto more broadly, it's a bit of a weird time as well. I think a lot of the on chain activity that we were seeing in mid to late 2024 has died off a bit, or at least pared back. And certainly my expectations have been exceeded on the Monad testnet with the amount of experimentation and community building. Certainly shout out to G Van running things over on the Perpl side. But I'm curious, PBJ, from your perspective as a builder in the DeFi space, like what are your thoughts on the current state of crypto and DeFi and trading as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's again one of those things. It's a perspective thing. I think if people are just watching like price charts, it's always like doom, because if it's not going up and to the right, then everything's going bad. But if you kind of zoom out of that and just look at how much like institutional adoption, whether whichever way you feel about Trump, it's been the most pro crypto administration that we've had. Stable coins are booming. Institutions are, there's like the MicroStrategy for Solana. Superstate just announced that they're going to put stocks on chain. Ostium, this other great perp dex on Arbitrum, is already doing that, where you can, take leverage and speculate on Google or Facebook, etc. There's just a ton of great things happening in crypto, and eventually the price charts, reach that. But for us as builders, like I'm just so excited to see like what's going to happen on Monad. I think perps on Monad is very obvious, but there's just so many non-obvious things that are going to happen with EVM at like a HFT chain, and we're ready for it. We're excited for it. And if you look at the testnet excitement, I'm sure you guys have said this over and over again. It's probably been like the most used testnet ever. It's just gotten so much activity and buzz around it. Um, yeah, yeah, really excited to be in the ecosystem and see kind of like the new players that are going to emerge from.
Yeah, absolutely love the long-term mindset from yourself and the team. It's certainly really going to be exciting to get hands-on with the testnet deployment. I know there's probably going to be a ton of stuff even during that phase on the community side of things. And maybe you've mentioned this already, but I'm curious, for a little bit more info on when and how you got into crypto and kind of what your personal journey has been like now as a founder and a builder in the space.
Yeah, really interesting journey. So AC, my co-founder, and I, we used to work for AMD Xilinx. It's basically like a FPGA hardware company. Um, it's used in defense, like military weapons. It's used in space. It's used in telecom, HFT, and even crypto, right? ZK and early crypto mining used to be on FPGAs. Yeah, we did that for a couple of years. AC was there longer than me. We were kind of just like, all of our friends were doing like cool Web2 startups, and we're like, why are we, doing this like old school hardware company? And we quit our jobs around 2016, tried to do like, the prototypical YC startup. just over engineering everything. Like we over engineered absolutely every consumer app out there. And most of the times in Web2, consumers don't really care. There's only a few things that they care about. Eventually, we find ourselves in crypto through some hackathons. We won a bunch of hackathons. Um, and then again, we were building like Web 2E stuff in crypto and not really like to the core smart contracts. And eventually, we were like, we're FPGA developers and we know low level programming. Why are we not writing Solidity? Why are we writing JavaScript? So this was around like 2021, 22. Paradigm was putting out these amazing mechanism design papers. We saw one of them and said, let's build this. So we were doing that. It was basically a very specialized AMM for DAOs or whales to sell or buy crypto assets on chain in an elegant way. And around 23, 24, we were just like, we were 2 years into building that. We had put it on mainnet. We had a few trades. Just wasn't going anywhere because this is around the time where nobody was trading on chain on Ethereum. Everyone was on Solana or there was RFQs. And yeah, around that time, Argonia reached out and pitched us this amazing idea. And we were like, hell yeah, like nobody's done this. And this is the type of engineering problem that as a builder, as an engineer, you dream of. And, since we've been in the ecosystem, the Monad Foundation, Category Labs, everyone has just been like so thoroughly helpful. We talked to both James and Keone before we took on the project, and it was like kindred spirits. Like we were like, wow, these guys are doing things the right way. Like I remember talking to Keone and I'm like, why don't you do what Say does and just say like 400 milliseconds? And like, we would be co-locating nodes. Like, what's the point? Like, what are we doing that's different? And it's funny. And I was like, how the hell do we do like a 1 second blockchain? And thinking about it, right? Like 1 second's fast, but now when you guys announce 500 milliseconds, I'm like, yes, thank you. Like this makes life so much better. But yeah, like, it's been a hell of a journey. It was just a lot of building, a lot of doing things that didn't matter for a long time, and it's fun to be doing things that are like exciting and people want to get their hands on now.
Oh, absolutely. And, certainly hearing you tell that story reminds me definitely of the same inspiration that I've heard from Keone and James and Eunice and other members of the team at Foundation and Category Labs for sure. And I think, that's really the type of builder that crypto needs more of. People that are relentless in the pursuit of solving hard problems and genuinely enjoy that experience, right? It's not like, we could do this the hard way and we could do this the easy way, but like we flipped a coin and we decided to do it the hard way. It's like, no, these people don't get fulfillment from, just shipping something that is not differentiated or not super challenging or just like forking some existing hardware and trying to monetize that. So to me as someone who is fully non-technical, it is just so inspiring to hear a story like that. But it also makes me curious as well, kind of coming into the space around 2020, I think you said, and doing a lot of experimentation. That was a very interesting time to be in crypto because the euphoria was just off the charts. And that was personally around the time that I got into crypto. But, whether it was like NFTs or like, some early meme coins and DeFi summer and like infrastructure as well, there was just so much euphoria. Every day there was a new thing that everyone was rip roaring excited about. Did you kind of see crypto adoption and crypto products being at the stage that they're currently at in 2025, or would you have imagined they'd be, further along in the pursuits of both performance and decentralization?
Yeah. It's funny. Like when you were talking about that, it just what a wild industry we live in. So we got into crypto around 2018, 2019. In 2019, we were doing this like DeFi analytics type of thing where if you're familiar with like Amplitude or Segment, what it does, it says, what we were building was like, look, if you want users that have used Aave and traded on OpenSea, we'll give you those wallets, and then you can send them a message potentially, right? And I remember when we were building this, I just DM'd Devin Finzer from OpenSea. This is like 2019 before the whole craze, right? And he's like, "Sure, man, I'll talk to you about like what we're doing and what we use for analytics." And I remember just going to this like random coffee shop in Manhattan or Brooklyn, talking to this guy, and it's like super down to earth, you know. And then they were like, "Yeah, we built a lot of this analytics in house, but this is really cool. You guys should continue doing this because you know other DeFi startups can need this." And literally 6 months later, boom, there goes OpenSea. And like a year later, he's like raising like $13 billion rounds. But that's the thing about this space, right? Like it could literally feel like the doldrums, nothing is happening, and then the next day, like or the next week or month, it's just completely changed. Um, but the point of that is just like, you know, this is a space that has next to AI probably the most interest and the most potential. And there's just a ton of problems for people to solve, right? There's just a lot of things that the space needs. And it's just exciting to be around that type of energy and people that are like relentlessly pursuing that. And like you mentioned, you know, it's great to be around people like, you know, hearing from like Keone and James, Vitalik, what, and, you know, even Anatoly, right? Like these really credible builders that are trying to do this for the long term, trying to do things the right way. And it's really hard. But if you do it and you do it the right way, the rewards are worth it. You know, the reward is literally the journey, honestly.
100%. I know, like listing, some of the most like experienced and successful and mission driven builders in the space has me, thinking about like inspirations. And I'm curious, like beyond some of those that you just listened, whether they're in crypto or doing something else entirely, who do you look to as inspiring?
Oh man, that's a good question. You know, actually, I have a great answer for this. I think I I don't know his full name, but the Euler founder. I mean, if you've read his story of like what happened with the Euler hack, and I keep seeing these like memes of like, you know, the spikes and like the DeFi llama TVL chart, and then just flat line and then up and to the right. Like it is incredible, like what he's done to turn around the company after such a huge hack. And like that is like the thing that keeps up founders, right? Like getting your protocol hacked, how do you rally your team around it? How do you like come back from it? And they took their time. They went back to the drawing board, and he actually has a great blog post about it, like with the whole process of it. It's all inspiring listening to that, man. And I'm just like, wow, like the amount of grit you need to have to be able to recover from that, come back, rebuild, and succeed. That's just huge. Like that's the American story, right? Like you get knocked down and you get back up and you succeed, and he's doing that brick by brick, and you know, great founder, obviously, and that's somebody I definitely look up to.
Shout out Michael Bentley and the Oiler team for sure. And yeah, I mean to that point, you have to have so much grit to build in this space. Certainly, there's a parallel to like the American dream in general, but like in crypto, the user community and the Twitter timeline is like very quick to either turn on you in a negative way or even sometimes a positive way if things are going well. But that presents a massive challenge in itself because it really is inevitable that at some point there's going to be hard times, there's going to be a large challenge to overcome, and especially once the product is public, you have to combat those issues in public as well. So people, I don't know what the saying is, it's slipping out of my mind right now, but like the champions are made in the hardest of times, essentially. I don't know if intern can help me out here with an analogy.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the people who make it are not the people that stick around when it's super easy, right? It doesn't work that way, and there's a few reasons for it, right? When times are tough, you need to have like very strong fundamental beliefs in what you're doing to stick around and stick with the project that's important to you. And those are the traits that when times are good, like you have built a foundation that no one else has, it's unshakable, and you can just push forward through harder problems than other folks. I don't think it's like, I don't know. I don't think that it is a coincidence that you look at the success stories, in crypto specifically, but this is kind of just broader across the world. That people that stick around are the ones that like end up on the other side. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've certainly had our ups and downs at Monad, um, PB. You haven't you haven't seen it from the community side or the user side, but you certainly felt it from like the builder side and like what it takes to actually stick through and bring this together. So I don't know. I'm really excited to get my hands on this. I know you can't talk about timelines. Um, the second you tell me, even in confidence, a timeline, I'm going to be putting it on Twitter. So make sure to look out for that because I want to trade perps on Mon. Like that's 30 seconds after hearing about Mon, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is obviously a great place for this. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, one kind of follow up to that is directly related to the Monad community. Um, and I'm in this camp as well myself, but I think there's a good amount of community members that are really excited about Monad, but maybe haven't done a lot of trading. And if they have, it's maybe more skewed towards a centralized environment. So it's awesome, first and foremost, that there's awesome products coming, fully on chain to enable that. But I'm wondering if you have any advice for a community member that's, listening to this podcast, they're making a note in their calendar or their checklist to, join the Perpl community and check out the product when it's live on testnet. Do you have any guidance for maybe a user who's kind of net new to DeFi and how you would think about exploring the space, learning a new product, and getting involved with Perpl as a whole?
Yeah, I'll give you like a very easy answer for this. So we have these things called DeFi workshops. Again, G-Ben's been killing it. He has set this up where if you want to learn about yield farming, if you want to learn about trading spot or perps, and I'm sure he has like a ton of other topics where you literally just join Discord, go to these events. There's people, professionals coming in that are saying like that I've done this before that can educate you. If you want to go one level deeper, try out the products on testnet. You don't have to like pay any money. Like you literally just need to create a wallet. I'm sure you can get some testnet on from either our Discord or any of the other amazing apps that are out there. Just try them out, right? Like that's how you learn best. Even like in TradFi, right? They used to have these like test accounts you could try from. There's probably a ton of great content that you guys have put out. Like there's a ton of YouTube content. If you're a little bit more proficient and you want to like work in crypto, I think the best way to do it is actually by doing something. You could even do something simple like doing dashboards, right? That's like the lowest thing that not low as in like not competent, but like it's something easy for you to do. And then just user feedback. Like I think you guys tweeted this out a couple maybe like last week or so where all these apps are launching. It'd be great for somebody to actually try it out and give them credible feedback. Hey, I'm brand new to crypto. This doesn't make sense to me. That's valuable feedback for builders. So there's just a ton of ways for you to get involved. And then if you're more proficient in programming, write Telegram bots, right? Like write some like cool front ends to interact with these smart contracts. Like there's a ton of like resources. And one of the advantages that Monad has is it's an EVM chain. You can basically just look at every Ethereum tutorial and do the same thing on Monad, right? You don't even have to wait for Monad. Like for us, when we're internally developing before we can get access to the node, we just develop like we're developing on Ethereum, right? And we can just internally say, cool, block speed is 1 second, 1 billion gas, like, and that's it. So you can just glom onto all the great content that Ethereum developers and the Ethereum community has already done to learn about the EVM, learn about programming there. But there's tons of ways for you to get involved. Don't just be a crypto Twitter reply guy. I think that's probably the lowest way for you getting involved. There's more credible ways for you to be part of the community. And And you've seen that, especially in Monad, right? You've seen how members got involved early, they moved up, they got roles in other communities. Like GVAN came from the Monad community, right? So there's definitely ways for you to get involved, technically, non-technically, new user, seasoned user, no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a super well-rounded answer, and I think it really boils down to the kind of core point that you mentioned, which is like you can just like go do things, and that's uh
Yeah.
that's something I've seen a lot on the timeline. I don't know who I should credit with starting that, but it is extremely true. Like the best way to learn about something new and get involved in a movement and build trust to the point where somebody is willing to give you responsibility and opportunity is to just jump in and do it yourself. And certainly GVAN and many other contributors across the Monad ecosystem have done just that. The legend who is going to edit this podcast, shout out Savant.
Shout out Savant.
Same exact story, right? Like he was a community member who was excited about Monad, had some background and skills on the videography side. We had started up this podcast, and he just, without anyone asking him to, just started creating short content and clipping different episodes and uploading that to Twitter. And we very quickly noticed, we said, this is awesome. Like, let's let's pursue this in a more involved capacity. And that is exactly the way that opportunities open up in this space. So love to hear that sentiment for sure. And maybe we've kind of touched on this final question already inadvertently, but on the Pipeline podcast, we shamelessly steal our final question from the best crypto podcast of all time. Intern always intros it, so I'm going to throw it back over to him to do so.
Hello, and welcome to the final question of the Pipeline Podcast, episode 40 with PB, founder of Perpl. PB, the final question is called Final Alpha. And the Final Alpha is basically the last thing you want to leave the listeners with. We've seen people take very different approaches on how they answer this. Some people choose to give a piece of wisdom that they've learned maybe from building or from trading or anything else. We've had quotes from grandmothers that have stuck with someone for a very long time. We've had book recommendations that, someone read a book and it changed their life and they think other people should check it out as well. We've actually had funny jokes. We've had puns. We've had really anything, but it's kind of the lasting thought that, you would like to leave that might leave the listeners smarter, wiser, or maybe just brighten their day a little bit.
All right, I'll give you two answers to this. First one, I think this is a more practical one. I think this is for the builders out there. I know I was definitely in this camp. When I wanted to do a startup, I didn't have a good idea. I think like if you read like the Paul Graham articles, it's like do something that's your own problem. Well, I was pretty comfortable. I didn't have many problems. The way I think we finally made some breakthroughs was taking part in hackathons. If you don't have good ideas, go to a hackathon, join a team, or most of these hackathons even have ideas of what to build. That's the fastest way that I think you can like progress and build something amazing. The second one, and this is something that I've been thinking about. This is James. I think I would like to start a meme contest with him as blockchain Larry David. I think he's got such a Larry David persona vibe, like not giving a fuck. I think blockchain Larry David and James, that would be great to see some memes around that.
Well, Final Alpha absolutely did not disappoint. Would love to see Larry David, blockchain Larry David. We might already have.
That's so good for him. Honest, that's one of the best. I don't know, references that I've heard for a James Hunsaker. Right. It's so spot on.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. This has been awesome. PB, great to have you on the Pipeline podcast. Great to be back with another episode of the Pipeline. We're looking forward to doing more and more now that we have this awesome setup here in New York. So PB, thank you very much for joining us. Huge congrats on the fundraise. Really looking forward to getting active with Perpl on the Monad testnet and catching all the updates as they become public over the next few months. So thanks again for joining, and intern, thanks again for co-hosting as always.
Dude, anytime PB's on, I'll be here. Beautiful.
That's a promise. I'll hold you to it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, PB. Catch you next time, brother.